depending on which company you're working for these days, it could be time for annual performance reviews. And one of the things, there's always a lot of stress. I think there's a lot of stress around annual performance reviews because sometimes it's a little bit of a black box, what ranking you're going to get. Now, Matt, you revealed to me there's a way that you and I, and really everyone listening to this, can be checking on their performance review. And let me be clear here. This is a performance review from Uber. So you found out that, and maybe this is, I'm sure this has been around for a long time, that if you go into your Uber app, you go into settings, the privacy center, you can actually say that there's a little place where it says, would you like to see a summary of how you use Uber? And then more importantly, it says view my ratings. So this is a collection of your distribution of your ratings. And as if anyone has not ridden Uber, well, good for you. I don't know where you live. That's fantastic.
Hey, they don't have Lyft here. I haven't quite caught.
I was gonna say you found another way. That's good for you.
I'm gonna be doing Grab later this month. So,
but for anyone listening, everyone probably gets it. There's basically it's 1 to 5 stars, right? And before we give it out, I think I was going to say that like 5 stars is really like average. You know what I mean? It's like I'm giving 5 stars unless
I'm giving 5 stars. Yeah.
Unless something unusual, and it has to be pretty unusual. I'm giving out 5 stars, and I kind of expect that in return. It's a lot like when you ask your employees for like a 360 review. It's like, hey, I'm gonna give you a really good 360 evaluation, and in return, I'm kind of expecting you to do that, right? I don't and if you have an issue with me, I don't want don't write it out. It's kind of like with the Uber thing. It's like if we've got beef, let's work it out before we get on the app. So I think that is the backdrop. Really, 5 stars is the passing. So
this is mutually assured destruction here. Yeah.
All right, so I will reveal my ranking, which is honestly, I was a little disappointed. So I don't ride or use Uber nearly as much as you do. So I don't have as much data. But here's what I'm at a 4.84, and I have not that many rides, but I have 2 4 stars and 2 3 stars, bringing down. Otherwise, it's all 5s. So I feel like it's unfortunate, and I don't. The thing that I think is like this is a lot like a performance evaluation where you're like a couple things. One, I have no idea which rides where I was graded down.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, to my belief is I delivered on all my KPIs in the Uber. I don't recall there ever being a time where like I had to get a 3 star because I think
this is like when you get laid off because of like first out or just budget cuts. And they just cut the whole side of your org chart. You didn't have any protection. There's nothing you could have done, Brandon. You got that 3 star.
I guess it is.
Who knows
why?
That
may be what it comes down to. But like, it really is. In this case, it's sort of seeking feedback. Like, I don't even know. Like sometimes, like I do think if you get in a fight with your Uber driver, or there's like clearly an incident, like there'd be times where you'd be like, well, this isn't going to go well. Like we're getting bad ratings. But I mean, to me, it's like, I don't, especially the 4 star. It's like, what did I do? Like, I feel like a 4 star is like, what would I do to get a 4 star? Like, I mean, I'm trying to be prompt and things like that. So again, I'm not going to debate them. I guess I would like any performance review. I just like to know how I can improve. So maybe that's what I need to ask from the Uber drivers. Like, can you give me a note? Was I late? Was I talkative? Was I not talkative? Was my bag heavy? I don't know. I don't know what the issues are. Now, why don't you go ahead? Why don't you reveal your Uber rating? Because you have a lot more rides. Go ahead.
So just a couple of notes here. I used to travel a lot, and when you're out on the road, you might do 5 6 Uber rides a day sometimes. You're hopping between customers. So I've got 500 rides. And across those 500 rides, my rating higher than Brandon's. It's a 4.87, but I don't know. All this discussion of what could I have done wrong, what could I have done right. I've got 4 1-star reviews and 3 2-star reviews, which is a little shocking. I mean, I always try. I always try. There was the one time I had food poisoning in Amsterdam. I didn't yak in the car. I gave the guy $20 tip. He got me to the airport. I didn't die. That was great. Maybe he
but did it require? Did he have to pull over so you could? If you will,
no. He had to wait, but we were on the meter, and that's the only time when I was like, Yeah, 1 star maybe, right?
Okay.
There was the time when the Rastafarian driver screamed obscenities out the window pretty much nonstop while we were
Uh-huh.
stuck in traffic. Any there were like, I don't know, homeless people crossing the road, and he was just having none of it.
But that's on
Um,
that would be you giving him a bad
well,
rating, right?
yes,
Or
yes,
did you
and then
say something, or were
I
you
was like,
like,
you know, oh, you could just let me out here, and then he like whipped off the road, and I opened my door and hit a bicyclist.
oh, okay, all right. So
He cut off
maybe
a
you're hitting on it.
bicycle. He cut
One
off a
way
bicycle. Yes.
I think you're hitting on it, though. One way to get a low review is if you sort of it's sort of like it's like mid ride breakup. You're like, just let me off here. That could be a sign that a
Yeah.
1-star rating's coming, right? I mean, that could be
I mean, yeah. And other than that, though, those are like, I mean, we're talking what 10 years of Uber riding, and that's all I can remember.
so
I
you
mean,
don't
we've
recall.
had,
So I mean,
I
I think to
yeah,
get a 1-star 4 times, like you would have four good stories or at
I
least
don't.
four memorable
That's what's
stories.
frustrating. I would love to have stories to back these up. I
Hmm.
mean, like the Rastafarian driver. There's a lot to that story. Yeah, that's a fun one. But I've had rides with like, you know, um, I've had rides where you know I didn't really talk to them much because I don't know they seemed kind of racist. But I just I don't think I've really given that many bad reviews either though. That's what it's never been reciprocal except for like you know one ride that sticks out in my head that I was like that dude I gave him 2 stars because he got me there. Uh,
Well, that's what I
but
mean. I think a 1-star. I mean, that is
I
like
feel like
I
it's a
feel like you
pocket
got
dial
in type
almost.
of a verbal altercation to get a one
I
star.
don't though, right?
I believe you, but I just think like, what would I give someone a 1 star? I guess if you're the writer, if they just take you to the wrong place and they like get out or something along those lines, I think that would be.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, and there have been times where, oh, we missed a turn. Like getting to my house can be a little difficult. And I'm like, oh, you're going to need to take the next right. And they miss it and they have to loop around the block. I'm like, whatever. Right. I've had stuff like that. You know, I had an Uber ride once where we got trapped by the Sydney Marathon. And, what was supposed to be a 45-minute ride was 2 hours.
okay, that would
Um,
be okay,
yeah.
but that's more a circumstance. I don't think anyone did
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
wrong there. That's just
but the
like,
thing was like we chatted the whole time, and a lot of times you're coming home late. I don't really talk that much sometimes.
well, that's the
I
only thing I
some
can figure out on the like the 4 and 3-star ratings. I feel like that just must be based on interaction. Like it's either one of the two things you said. It's either like you're kind of tired and you just don't want to talk, and the person feels like you're kind of being standoffish, or vice versa. Maybe you get in and you're like you're asking questions. You're doing the typical like, how long have you driven for Uber? Like, do you like it? Do you like And they're probably like, I have this conversation 7,000 times
yeah,
a day, and I don't want to talk about it. So maybe that would get you down. They just be like, I don't. That's a 4-star. Maybe if you're an Uber driver, that's your way of saying don't ask me the standard question.
exactly. But it's not like you're getting real time feedback. You have to go
Mhm.
dig through your reviews to find this,
I know.
right?
Well, I do, and now I feel
Yeah.
like I really feel like we are having a performance review discussion. You're like, I
So
didn't
so
even know.
Brandon,
I didn't know that was a goal. I didn't even know what we were
you've
doing.
got a low volume, right? So you can go and now you know what your scores are. You can
Hmm.
start up a spreadsheet, get some CSV export,
Yeah. I
and start like each ride. You go back and check because now you'd be like, oh, I have one more 3 star. It must have been Fernando. What did I do to piss Fernando off,
I
right?
think this is a whole. I mean, I was using Uber this week, and because I normally, again, as you can see, don't ride it that much, so it's like. But I was thinking to myself, like, wow, there are so many features in this app now. Like, I was just like, it's just like, I just remember when it was
Where
just
you
like
try to
you
take
could.
a bus.
Well, I did do that, but I was like, there are like so many kinds of Ubers, and then there's Uber Eats, and then there's
Hmm.
like, I was like, man, I remember when there's just two options: Black Car, Uber X, and it was like,
Yeah, yeah.
but I was like, wow, they have been. I mean, it's well designed. I mean, it's nice. I'm not saying, but I was like, wow, there's a lot of stuff in here. I was like,
Oh
maybe
yeah, yeah. And
maybe
every
the Uber.
airport's
I can see why
different,
they're
and
like
yeah.
adding buses. They're like, we just have much time. We've added every conceivable feature you could possibly want. So let's just add a bus,
So, so,
right? I was.
so is that a product manager's dream, or when you follow up with that, when you join on after the fact, are you like, oh my god, what have I stepped into?
Well, I think it's the latter. I think it's more around. I think because it's like this. Like I don't know how many. I mean, how exactly they do it, but probably like every radio button or everything is sort of like inside the product is a product inside the product.
Absolutely.
Like I actually used a little we'll call it first recommendation here of the show. Like one thing you can do with Costco, you can buy. You can spend $80 for $100 of Uber gift cards, right?
Ooh.
And you can do them online. So you like, I was like, oh, I need to get on Uber, and I was waiting in line. I was like, and so I just bought the cards, right? So I guess where I was going was like, so there's like Uber Cash, and there's probably a whole team that's like Uber Cash team, and they're like, we want to sell gift cards, we want people to use it, but like, there's just so much competition inside the app, right? You're like, should I use Uber Cash? And it's like, it's also you can almost see like the fighting. It's like, well, they don't really want you to use Uber Cash, right? So you have to go in, and once you get it, you have to then click use this
more
first.
Saudi crypto money. I mean,
right. On. And it's just like, so I don't know. So I think it's one of those things where it's like Uber's so successful as it is today. When you get hired on, someone's like, okay, you're taking over this one thing that like you and I would think of like it's nothing, right? We just think nothing of it, right?
Oh,
but there's a whole
That's
team
somebody's job. Yeah.
That is like working on an Uber bus, and they're just thinking about it 24/7, and they're like, we've got to show growth. We've got to show growth. And we're just like, I don't think we even want the bus.
Or hear me out. Maybe it's just a bunch of AI vibe coding this stuff in the background.
Could be.
Just like, you know what humans like? Buses.
That's right. It could absolutely. I mean, well, maybe this is a little advice. And maybe what they should do is embark on revamping the rating system. I think the rating system should just be 1 to 3. It should be 3. Ooh. Everything was great. 2 was like, it's fine.
No.
Right. And if anything, I think it should be this. It's like 1, 2, 3. And really everyone should be trained to give it 2. 2 is just like they picked up on time.
That's not how America works though, right?
No, but this is what I want. I think 2 would be the normal. It's like they picked up on time. You were there on time. You went to, you got dropped off on time. Everyone's happy. So 2 is just the standard, right? That way 3 we reserve for like something great happened. The person, like did something that is really worth acknowledgement. And then 1 is like, okay, it did not go well. Because all we need to know is like it didn't go well. Like the 1 star, it's like I don't know. There's so many levels. That's not giving us good data. 1 is just like it didn't go well. We know, we get it.
But that's not how ratings work in America, right? I just like people feel like if they don't get an A, they're not succeeding. And there's grade inflation all over the place, and there's review inflation. Do you buy anything on Amazon that has less than a 4-star review?
Absolutely not. In fact, I prefer they never even show it to me. Right?
Yeah. And so it's like this game of fake reviews and everything to get it to a 4.84, right? Mm-hmm. And so this whole rating thing. I think making it simpler isn't going to solve it. I think we need half reviews. I think we need to go 1.5. I think we need 10 stars.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, this is what I'd like to invite everyone to do. Like, Matt, you'll have to help me here. It's like, maybe we should set like a minimum 50 rides. Does anybody who has 50 rides or more have a 5-star review still?
No.
Like, do you think it's possible?
I mean, among Uber riders, we've had this conversation before where they're like, they think that some drivers will give people a 4 out of spite.
Because they're just like what?
Because a 5 cannot stand. A 5 cannot stand.
Okay, it's like a Hall of Fame vote. There can be no unanimous votes or something like that.
Exactly.
All right, well, maybe this is what we're going to say. Is, okay, I'll invite everyone in the Slack or send it to questions at Software Defined Talk. Like, send if you believe you have a high, what is the highest number of rides where someone has maintained a 5-star ranking? Yeah. Like, I'm sure there's lots of people. Obviously, 1 ride. I'm sure everyone has.
Well,
that.
we've got JJ in the channel said he's got a 4.96, and I assume JJ's
again not a 5 though.
No. But that, I could see, JJ, I know.
I believe JJ. Listen, I don't doubt JJ's got like a lot of rides under his belt, but I'm just saying like this, but this is what we want to, I want to identify the person that made it the furthest, right? Did you get to 100 rides? Did you get to 50 rides?
No.
Can anyone get to like 30? So I don't know what the number will be. Maybe I'm going to say the highest anyone can do is 25. I think that's why I put the over under. I was like, would you take the over or the under that someone listening has 25 rides and 25 5 stars?
Oh, listening? No chance.
No
Not our
chance.
listeners.
I believe our listeners. I believe in our people.
No.
There's a lot of polite. I met some of the listeners this week, and they're very polite, very nice people.
I know,
So,
but I'm telling you, you know, a 5-star cannot stand.
all right, well,
You know,
email it in,
the
and if
crabs
you want,
are going to pull you back into the pot. This is
you
just
can
not
take
gonna
a
happen.
little screenshot. Go into your app. Like, I mean, because again, if we are not known for our rigorous journalism, I don't know what we are. Take a screenshot of it and send it to me, and I'll be like, I'll recognize you as you'll be #1 software-defined talk Uber writer. And so it's good. All right, well, Matt, the eve of the Apple Developer Conference is upon us, and of course, you know, there's lots of exciting speculation about what they're going to be announcing. But the place I want us to focus in on, because I feel like this is almost like it's like a real maturity of a company, is it's reported that they're going to rename all of their operating systems and move to dates, basically calendar years and months. I would assume for release dates. You already kind of preempted me.
You don't do months. You don't do months.
Just years. Just years. You
no,
already
no,
prevented
you do years.
I was going to say
dot releases on the year. It's major, minor. And you know, so 2026.1 is better than, you know, .0. Everybody knows that, right? And you just, Semver loves that. I mean, it's a more thought out Semver for kind of a rolling release style. I love it. I've always advocated for that style of releasing, especially when you have, you know, what's the difference between 3.1 and 3.11? Nobody knows, right? But you do know, like, oh, I'm still running 2023. I can understand why it's you know, out of date or deprecated, where I get all these security warnings, right? You know, it's because I don't, honestly, right now, I think I'm on 15. Is that right?
I'd have to look it up. I don't want to have to. I honestly, I
have no idea on my phone and my watch. I ride the latest. You know, but I don't know.
Well, you don't always ride the latest. Sometimes on your computer, you usually like to be N-1. That's
right.
You know, for some period of time.
And work won't let me upgrade. Work is N-1 by default. So,
well, I think, you know, you've kind of stole everything on my thunder from my question. I was gonna say, like, so I'll start this. I'm gonna say, like, I think I'm more excited for this than I was for the Vision Pro announcement. I was like, I will finally be able to know exactly what operating system I'm running, and then when someone says, oh, what was, you know, do you remember, like, you know, Sea Leopard or whatever it was, you know, Snow Lion,
Leopard.
You know, all of the millions of names that I've forgotten, right? And some that I just made up,
wasn't it?
It's like, no, I can just remember. We can be like, oh, you remember 2019? Like, that was good or that was bad. So again, you know, Cote was saying, you know, he was commenting on, that was on the Cloudcast, so everyone should go check that out with our friend Brian Gracely, and he was saying that, you know, Brian and I did start with a conversation about the weather, and that he was basically pointing out we're becoming old men and eventually we'll be talking about bird watching. I was like, probably true. I'm not going to deny that. Still a great episode of the Cloudcast, which you need to go listen to. But I was like, this though, versioning dates, I was like, I'm pretty excited by this. I really am. I'm like, information that's very useful, and I will not have to remember any of the stupid code names. So I think they could just come out and do 30 minutes on names and just call it and be like, that's, you know, and just be like something like, and you know what, we updated the UI a little bit, but you know what, you can see that later. Just download the betas. Like, you don't even need to do anything else.
I'm here for it.
But I was going to say, like, that was the other big thing. So they're going to redesign the user interface, which just means this. It means, like, everyone will complain for, you know, 6 months to a year, and then a year will go by and we'll forget about it, right? So I think that's the normal cycle of UI refresh, right? Everyone will be like, why is the Photos app so much worse now? So I think that's going to come out. Do you have any thoughts on the UI? Do you even want a new UI?
I probably won't really know or care unless they mess it up a lot. And, you know, now that Johnny Ive's gone AI, who knows what could happen?
That could be true. The other thing, I do think they have, like, this, I really feel like this is a release they should call us in as consultants, because it's like, hey, we've all been here. You missed out on delivering any of your features for the last release. So you just got to really lower the bar, right? Everything you announce has to actually make it into the product this time. And you need to just, like, if you will, kind of cater to the developers. Be like, we're just going to make stuff work. You know, all the things that don't really work right now, that's what we're doing. We're going to update the APIs. We're going to, you know, test them out. We're going to make sure you're not getting weird error messages. It's sort of like a hardening release. You know what? You just take a little pause. You issue like you do a hardening release, and and you just maybe you throw on another button if you really feel like it. Throw another button on the iPhone. Just put another one on there and be like, this is the second action button. So I think it's going to be pretty subdued. That's my feeling.
And that's the point. I feel like year-based releasing gets people closer to feeling like they're on a a rolling release cadence almost. Like, you're like, you look at the calendar, you look at your release, you're like, oh, I guess I should upgrade, right? And when you get to more of a rolling release, you spend less time. You I feel like it's more of a license to go and fix the corner cases and the niggling bugs that keep people annoyed long term. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but I always thought like, hey, we're just going to keep fixing stuff, and we're not going to be tied to a big major release. We'll just say like, oh, hey, we finally fixed these things, and we bumped the minor version because it's new features, but we didn't have to have a big bang release and tie everything together, which what makes for a boring keynote.
No, that's the whole. Well, I think it's it's conference driven development. It's like if you don't have the giant conference, then you don't have to like feel like you have to like do all this stuff. You can just
you just keep churning and burning, and
you just throw stuff out. So I think it'll be interesting to see. Maybe the only thing else I would ask for is just like Apple Music. It's like I'm not so much unhappy. I'm like I still can never really find what I want to listen to. Like I don't really know what I want, and I know there's like your own station. They're like branded stations.
Oh, so like you're using it similar to Spotify, I guess.
I'm not really. I mean, it feels like everyone that has Spotify is like, oh, it's perfect. It always is playing what I want. I'm always in Apple Music. I don't know. I feel like I never. I sometimes I try to use the playlist. Sometimes I'm trying to make my own. I'm like, I don't really know. So like, how much more vague can I be? It's like, I don't know. In Apple Music, it's like there's a lot of buttons in there and there's a lot of music in there, but it's not connecting. It's like,
everything in there is part of a team, Brandon. You know that. So, somebody that's their day job that you're like, shitting on, that you're just like, I don't know. Do we really need this? And somebody's like, I'm trying to feed my family here.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, maybe, you know what? It sounds like I need to do some homework. I need to do some more homework on how to learn Apple Music. I'll do it because I don't want anyone to tell me any more about how great Spotify is. I'm already locked into the Apple One plan. Wow. I'm not changing. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, you're saving money.
That's right. Now, speaking of maybe not changing, Cote has been writing a lot this week about his favorite topic is private cloud. And so he came out and found a pretty good survey here that I encourage you to sign up for his newsletter where you can read all of this. This one comes from still a lot of private cloud. Check-in spring 2025. And so the net of this that I thought was interesting, the thing that I think he teased out of it is if you kind of go back to 2022, so the last, say, 3 or 4 years, it pretty much is steady state that the workloads, at least in this survey, are split almost 50-50 between on-premises and off-premises, or cloud and on-premise. And so I don't know, what did you think of this? What did you think of this kind of this kind of, maybe the simplest thing is like, do you think does this match like what you would have guessed, or do you feel like it's high or low?
I mean, mostly I'm working with cloud companies. My current employer, cloud security, previous employer, cloud pricing. So I would probably have expected it to be a little higher towards the cloud, but also this is kind of the law of big numbers, right? It's hard to move percentages when you're talking about total workloads. Do you really think that 2025 is going to be the year we move the needle, and we're going to jump 5 points? We're not. It's going to be a slow, steady increase. I mean, if you look at this, it's 1% every 2 years. That just keeps compounding. I would be curious to see like where this levels off. Is it 60%? Is it 70%? I mean, what do you think?
Well, the thing I was thinking about when I was kind of reading his analysis, and there's some responses to it, and we'll get to in a second, was that it's like, we have joked endlessly on the show about like, everyone always saying it's early innings, right? And it's early innings. And then with the implied assumption is like, well, eventually most everything will run in the cloud, right? At some, and again, we kind of joke all the time, like where in, it's some unknown point in the future, which we kind of joke about that. But I was thinking to myself, it's like, is this kind of the steady state, right? Like, because one of the points that gets made over and over, it's like, well, once the workload is a steady state, or it's a workload that's kind of been steady state for a long period of time, it's already running on premise, and maybe you throw in a little bit of compliance, or some type of need to keep it in a certain geography. It just kind of got me thinking. It's like, just this idea that's constantly pushed is like, oh, everything is going to move. It's like, maybe not. Like, maybe this is like, to your thing about large numbers, it's like, I mean, again, it's sort of like, the time horizon. If we say infinity, like, I get it. Like, I don't know.
But no,
Anything can happen. But if we say like within our
yes.
working lifespans, or things that we care about, I kind of say to myself, okay, what's more likely in 10 years? Is this like an 80-20 chart, or is this more like a 50-50 chart? And I kind of feel like 50-50. If I had to bet,
says
I'd feel 50-50.
55-45, right?
Right.
I mean,
Or
if you just
something
watch the
small,
trend line.
a very small change.
Yeah. I think, in 30 years, do you see this getting to 65%? Probably. But I just feel like this is not going to get to 100. I will be surprised if it gets above 80, 85. I mean, I'm not, I don't really believe that there's a serious cloud repatriation story. I think people just don't have a lot of the expertise to run things on-prem. Maybe AI solves it. I don't know. But, racking and stacking, data center cooling, all that fun stuff, nobody really wants that. So you end up with like managed colo, and the margins on that aren't great, but I have enough customers who have stuff that is locked in on-prem that isn't moving, that I see like, well, some of the stuff's just never going to move. You've got a lot of government workloads, you've got a lot of banking, data sovereignty issues. A lot of stuff just isn't going to move, and it's going to keep running the same place for years and years. So I think there's a plateauing. I think it's probably
I mean, a little bit
around
of plateau
80% in the fullness of time.
That's right. Oh, I was gonna say we can see a little bit of Gardner plateau productivity. It's just like, hey, a lot of this is just working. And so now, one of the things that was interesting, after Cote published this article, Matt Assay responded to his article, so you can read that one. That's also in the show notes. And so he generally agreed with Cote's analysis, but the point he kind of added to it was to basically say that as public cloud adoption continues to grow, and he's basically saying that the new enhancements are overwhelmingly happening in the public cloud. So it's basically, if you're building something new, it talks about AI and training models, and you're something, that's brand new, you're doing that in the cloud. And so he says that like that's very important. That, like, if you will, the most important things are happening in the public cloud. So like, what's your reaction to that, like that premise?
I mean, I agree that we're going to continue to see cloud to be focused first, but the counterpoints are things like HPE and Dell having amazing quarters because they're selling so much AI hardware. They're not selling it to Amazon and Google and Microsoft. They're selling it to traditional enterprise accounts. The super the big cloud providers, they're not buying from the likes of HPE anymore and Dell. They're going farther down market and
building their
more
own
stripped
stuff, right?
down, or building their own, right? So yeah, I feel like there is a counterpoint there. I think workloads are continuing to increase. Majority still in the cloud, but on-prem isn't going away.
But I think also too, like, implied in here is sort of like the new stuff is more important than the old stuff. And that's like, I know where he's coming from, but I simultaneously think it's like, but the old stuff is kind of like what provides the actual value now. You know what I mean? Like the fact that everyone's training AI models.
You call it legacy, but it's paying the bills. Right?
But it's more than that. It's like, it is cool. Like, and we'll talk a little bit about AI here in a few minutes, but it's like, yeah, it's great. All the AI models, it's cool and stuff. But if you think about like what you really care about is like, did I get paid? Did the banking transaction for my payroll actually, execute? Was my flight reservation available? Did the point of sale terminal at the grocery store actually work. So these are the things that I think people think is like, it's all legacy, but it's also like, this is kind of how you live your day-to-day life. And so, you know what I'm saying? If you said to yourself, like, if you just said to yourself, it's like, I got to take one away or the other, which is not really right. You'd be like, you know, I kind of be like, maybe we should keep all that private cloud stuff, because it's probably the stuff that's like actually like, you know, it's sort of like, if you will, providing the functions of human need that we need right now, right? And maybe in the future,
our Maslow's hierarchy of enterprise needs, it's the bottom is private cloud.
I kind of think it is. I mean, I really do kind of believe it's like, it probably is actually there. Like, you know, and the fact that like, and also too, like, I think the thing that maybe he misses there, and I don't know if this is true, so I don't know if I'm strongly held this opinion, though, is like, you know, if you will, this week's new thing in the cloud is the potential to become a steady state workflow, workload, and then get moved to some other private cloud in the future, right? So it's like whatever it is that happens. So I don't know. I mean, it's one of these things where it's like, it's just interesting to talk about. It's like, you know, I certainly don't want to go all DAH here, right? He's just like, you know, everything on the public cloud is wrong, and I'm moving all this back, and, you know, we've been sold a bill of goods. Like, absolutely not. I mean, that's not true at all. I think I get it. I see the value of the public cloud, right?
I mean, when you dealing with customers, still dealing with AWS for ingress egress charges, like you're kind of like, yeah, I could make the case to move this stuff on prem. You know, sometimes the case is there, but for the vast majority of people, it's just not worth the time and effort. And to that point, I think the cloud providers are gouging them because they can.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think also too, I mean, I will say, kind of back to like, I think if you have everything working well in the cloud, right? And this is kind of back to, and so then Corey Quinn, you know, if you will, kind of chimed in, right? He had a little write up here this week about cloud repatriation. So talking, and I think his biggest thing was like, you know, data sovereignty, which seems like I get that one seems, this is one of these things we've been talking about for a long time that I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know, data sovereignty. But like more recently, we won't get into all the details, but it seems like the world political climate does feel a little bit different now. Like suddenly data sovereignty seems a lot more important than maybe it did just a few years ago.
I mean, I saw a post on, I guess, Blue Sky probably, but essentially asking the question is like, you know, you're an American, you're like, oh, whatever, you know, my stuff's in the cloud, but put your shoe on the other foot. Would you say, all my data is in a French data center? All my apps run on a French, you know, cloud provider. How do you feel about that, right? As you know, majority of our listeners are Americans, and they're like, oh, I don't know, you know, what's France up to? Like, it's exactly the same for everyone else in the world. You know, they're like, oh, I guess they might, you know, the French government might lean on them to do stuff to your data or get access to things. It's like, yes, that's what the rest of the world is like now dealing with, is that thought that, maybe we need to look at, you know, other stuff. It's not just enough to put stuff in, you know, the Alexandria data center for French telecom, right? You know, that's not happening, right? So people are looking at alternatives.
No, I think that's all true. So I think that makes sense. I will say this though, I still am a little like the whole thing that this is like this massive like movement to repatriate. I'm always just like, I feel like when you get it working in one area or the other, most of the time you're gonna stay where you have it. And I think there are a lot of people that are moving to the cloud, far less, right? Although people love to talk about it, I think far less. But I think maybe what it just comes down to, it's kind of what I opened kind of some of the thoughts here was sort of like, I just think the whole thing is a lot more steady state. And I think your point about large numbers is the big thing. It's like, it's hard to really grasp how much private cloud legacy applications that exist. Like, I think we all know it's big, but it's probably like 10 times bigger than that. And so it's just going to take a very long time for those workloads to either just like be end of life and phase out or to actually move. And it's probably, like you said, I can't remember what you said, but it's like, I don't know, 15 years, like in 15 years, are we at 60%? Like, okay, that seems reasonable. But that's a long time. Like we will have been at this like 30 plus years.
But
if you think about that.
I mean, the trend lines are like, maybe, you know, you might get there in 15 years, but you know, you're probably talking 20.
Yeah. And I think that's just like, and maybe that's the boring thing is like, It's just it's going to happen a lot slower. Unless there's some, obviously we can always just like on the side here, we can always just have like an AI wild card. I don't know. I have no idea. If AI changes everything, it's like, I guess it's all different.
I mean, we need to get those robots that can rack and stack and do the Ethernet cables. That's what we need.
Oh my gosh. I tell you this, I'll be the first one to buy a robot that can come over to my house and be like, okay, do all these cables for me. I suck at this. So that would be the first hire, as Cote would say. It's like, why are you doing this by yourself? It's like, I don't know. I just am. Now, in other news here, and kind of speaking a little bit about the future, Snowflake has bought CrunchyData, which of course I want to call Crunchyroll. I don't know why that I want that, but CrunchyData for $250 million. I got to be honest, I didn't really know anything about them. Quick history here, though, is they also, if you will, have a lot of Postgres products. So this is, I guess, a direct response to Databricks buying Neon, which was basically known for serverless, developer-centric Postgres for AI, as they call it. And then as I read up a little bit on CrunchyData, it seemed, again, I don't think they would probably want to be compared, but CrunchyData is, if you will, they're more the enterprise grade Postgres. So I guess the ultimate solution here is, what we should have done, Matt, is 5 years ago, started some type of Postgres cloud-based company. I mean, it was a good week. It's been a good month for that market. Go ahead.
I mean, I feel like this is also like saying, oh, we should have started a security firm, but there's a lot of competition in that space, and I fail to see how everybody can get out safely. Safely being a positive acquisition, because it's really hard to break out and be your own thing. I mean, Snowflake is relatively newish, big success story, but their story wasn't database; it was data lake. So I think right now, if you are a database vendor, you are starting to look like a feature. You're starting to look like a feature on somebody else's product line, right? Like this CrunchyData, somewhere there's a Snowflake, product offering that is like, has a little asterisk with like, now with, serverless Postgres or something. It's just like, okay, now there's a Postgres endpoint on top of Snowflake. That's what this is probably looking like.
Well, I can't help but think about like just the business side of it. It's like, we were talking a few episodes ago about our experience, working in systems management. And ultimately, Zenos was, acquired for nothing but debt. And it's also the classic Glenn Gross line, right? It's like, first, what was it, like first place, you get the car, and second place is the set of steak knives. Third place is you're fired. And it's like, okay, well, Neon acquired for $1 billion. Great for them. CrunchyData acquired for $250 million. So they're number 2. And number 3 is like, you're probably in a real tough spot. Like there's nobody left to buy you, at least none of the big, data warehousing startups. They both have made their move. So if you're third, if you're like, and you're probably thinking to yourself like, well, if they're worth 250, maybe we're worth 100. It's like, it doesn't really work like that. It's like you get to some point where it just becomes zero. So that's gotta be tough.
I mean, I don't want to downplay CrunchyData getting acquired, but $250 million for 100 employees is like, 6 years of salary for 100 employees.
Yeah, so
that's kind of how you can think about it, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it's one of those things. But you can kind of see how it went. It's like Neon gets bought, right? And so you got to think of your Snowflake. You kind of show up. You're like, we're talking to a couple people here. Would you like this? Because if you say no, we're going to the next one. We're going to the next one down. And it's
there's 5 Postgres vendors, right, and we need this feature set, and we want to spend this much to have that feature set.
Do you think you just walk around with a set of steak knives? Like if you're like, I have the snake flies, the steak knives. This is number 2. Like, would you like these or would you like 3? Because 3 is you're fired. Like, which one are you thinking you want here?
Hopefully, there's this the sales, the guy, the M&A guy. He's got his briefcase. I'm gonna be a little sexist here. He's got his briefcase because he opens up. On the desk, he puts his steak knives and he puts the brass balls. he's like, that's it.
That's all we have to choose from here.
We're having. Yeah.
Well,
And then, of course,
well,
the millennials haven't seen this, so they don't know what we're talking
they
about.
know what we're talking about. Well, you need to go watch it. Although I forgot
Yeah.
the first quote, but it's great. Many would say it's Alec Baldwin's best work.
He
Maybe it's
got an
most.
Academy Award for 10 minutes of work.
Yeah, I mean it's really short, so it's definitely very if you will consumable. It's like probably I wonder if anyone's put it on TikTok. I mean maybe that's what someone needs to put the whole thing on TikTok. So
Well,
that would
the
be even
Saturday
better.
Night Live skit of him at Santa's workshop, also top
Also
notch
good.
content.
All right, another.
Yes.
So there's a
It's
whole
the exact same monologue, but it's always be cobbling because they're
to,
elves.
to the four elves. So
We'll have to put that in the show notes.
all right. Well, regardless, congratulations to CrunchyData and whoever third place was, because I honestly don't follow this list, but whoever the third place Postgres firm is, it's like could be time to update the resume, right? Could be time that maybe you missed your window, but we wish you luck no matter what. Now, one other thing I saw that kind of jumped out at me was Casey Newton. He writes a great little newsletter, and he wrote an article I thought was interesting about. He's calling it "The AI Browser Wars Are About to Begin." And so his kind of pitch was, and as we talked about, there's at least thoughts that Google may have to divest Chrome. Who knows? Will that really happen? I don't know. But more importantly, it has sparked a lot of, if you will, I don't know what you would call it, like reinvigoration of the browser world, or people kind of rethinking the browser. And so this is, I guess, where he was kind of coming at it was sort of do you think the future is like people, is it actually a time where like we could move away from the traditional browser and the idea of rendering a web page in favor of like, I don't know what I'm gonna call it. I'm just gonna call it chat-based UI first thing that's sort of like, if you will, interacts with some type of MCP layer on all of these sites, and we get away from rendering HTML. Could it actually happen, Matt? Do we even want it to happen?
I think there are people who would like for that to happen. I think there's going to be a strong contingent of people fighting that, and not from like the consumer side, from the other side, where they're like, yo, our engagement numbers are going down because people are just getting what they want and they're not mindlessly searching for hours and hours, and so they're going to, I don't know, corrupt this experience to make it like, oh, the AI gave you what you want, now let's spend 2 more hours looking at what AI will give you.
To use your favorite word, enshittify. They will enshittify the AI-based browser replacement thing.
I'm sorry if I'm pessimistic on this, but I think there are business at the high cost of AI. They're going to have to try to find something that pays for it, and I don't think. I mean, people aren't going to pay $10 a month for TikTok, right? So
no.
What are they going to get people engaged with that they're going to pay for? Like, well, we're going to have to revert back to selling eyeballs. Maybe.
But I do think I think maybe there's. I'm going to just offer up some optimism here at the risk of being called maybe a Pollyanna a little bit. It was like, I don't know. I spent a lot of time this week kind of looking at APIs, and we'll have an episode next week. We'll talk about a little more about some of the stuff I got some exposure to. But this idea of like, really, if you will, it's kind of something maybe we've been talking about for a long time, but it seems much more realistic now. It's sort of like, hey, there are lots of sites that provide services. They all provide APIs. There's going to be some linkage between these APIs and AI, whether that's MCP or agent to agent or something else, right? And this idea that like, hey, if you rethought the experience from that moment, right? It's like, no, I'm not going to make you read a web page. I'm just going to let you do things, interact with the web, and then give you a very personalized experience. Like maybe that cleans it up, right? Maybe that gets it, because I was looking.
I think some people, hopefully. I think some people will use this as an opportunity to live their best lives away from.
But I think I guess the way we could all have it though is if someone sort of like, because I can't be Google, right? It's like it would take somebody outside of the current, if you kind of what you're outlining, this like search traffic, ad kind of cycle we're in, right? This kind of spiral. Some new thing be like, so I don't know what you would say. It's almost like someone was like, hey, we got to get away from the terminal. Let's put a UI. And it's like a totally way to interact, right? And then, of course, on top of the UI, we, of course, have the browser. But if someone was to like turn the dial again and be like, okay, You know, instead of doing all this crazy stuff, going to all these web pages and rendering all these stuff, it's like, why don't you just talk to this thing and it will kind of start doing it for you? I don't know, maybe that lets us escape the world. Cause you know, I was on some website today as preparing for the show, and it's like, I don't know what happened. It was like one of those sites. The article was good, but like, you know, it just got like the ads were just like layering on top of each other I mean, I just couldn't even read it. You know what I mean? And I was thinking to myself, like this, like maybe this is it, right? Maybe like, and we shouldn't even call it a browser. I don't know what we would want to call it. Maybe it's like the MacGuffin thing. I'm just making it up in my mind. It doesn't even exist. It could be anything, but it's just a world where we're interacting with like, you know, something that goes to the sites, does the work for us, and gives us a nice experience. It feels like there's a window, Matt. I want you to be on board with me.
I want this to be
there's a window out there where something like this could happen.
I want this experience. I'm just, you know, I'm pessimistic from 20 plus years of interneting.
It's true. We could be stuck with a lot of pop-ups. Well, okay. Well, it's an interesting article. I think it's good. Check it out. We'll keep hopefully someone will introduce something fun that we can play with. And of course we'll see it and probably hate it, but you know, who knows? Yeah. But right now we can be optimistic about it. Now, the other thing I wanted to quickly mention was I listened to Ben Thompson's whole interview with the Cursor co-founder, and we've had a lot of conversations about a Cursor and AI assistants and stuff like that. I did come away from the interview though, thinking that like, you know what, maybe the moats around this stuff is a little bit deeper than I originally thought. And the points that they made was like, one, when they kind of built Cursor, they were able to embed it, if you will, right in their fork of VS Code. Whereas GitHub Copilot was always, if you will, like an add-on. And I did get one of the listeners this week I ran into was telling me that I need to try Copilot. He's like, it's gotten a lot better. It's, you know, in some ways he thinks it's just as good as Cursor. But like I kind of like, just that mindset though, this idea that like, no, when you don't have to, if you will, like Microsoft can't just like embed AI into VS Code, people will be pissed, right? You know, so they kind of have to make it an add-on, whereas like Cursor and Windsurf, you know, they can kind of do that. So I thought that was I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then of course, the other part that I caught my attention that they built a lot of LLMs, if you will, that kind of sit in between, you know, the code and actually using the foundation LLMs. And I thought that was actually, okay, that made sense. It's like, it's not just about like who has the best LLM, but it's sort of like, if you will, creating the routing technology inside of it. So that was like, I was like, you know, cause I'm a Cursor fan. I feel like I'm definitely in the fan club. So I was like, oh, okay, well maybe they have more differentiation than I originally thought. And of course, like if maybe people saw this week, you know, Windsurf, I guess Windsurf, you know, got bought and immediately Anthropic cut them off, which I thought was interesting too. I was like, oh, this isn't good. So I don't know, any thoughts? Like what is your, I don't even know, where are you at on the state of using an IDE with an AI agent inside of it? Are you, I know you're still in Emacs,
I'm
right?
lagging.
What are you doing?
I was using Copilot for a while, and I've downloaded Cursor, but I haven't got around to my little side project. But I'm hoping to hop on that and you know, let the vibes flow over me.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I think you should check it out. I think Cursor, again, I think that's to me, that's the leader. And again, maybe it was all propaganda and it was just a good interview. And the person, he had his good talking points, but I left. I was like,
they do good interviews over there.
I was going to say, though, I was like, at the end, I was like, I'm buying this. I am buying the differentiation. So we're going to see. And of course, I think Cursor is going to be sold for a lot of money. I think, you know, it's just imagine, it's like when the phone call comes in, it's like, what's the number they're going to take, right? I mean, maybe they have the Wiz negotiator working for them. They're like, nope, 20 billion, not good enough. We'll see you at 26 or something like this. Yeah. Okay, we'll just go through two quick things here. One, I just want to say that the Zoom CEO is using an AI avatar to like read the prepared statement of the earnings call. And I have to be like, Zoom has lost its way. They have absolutely got, like, they're literally making like real-time videos inside their calls where you're watching it, because like we have this technology. You can just make a YouTube video if you don't want to like do anything live. So I don't get it. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on in Zoom, but please, I don't want us all to be sending avatars, talking to avatars in an actual meeting. And you know what I mean? It's like, we can just let the agents talk by text or something. So I don't know. It's almost like just like red flag. We've got like someone get in front of the Zoom people. We don't want this. I don't think we want this at all. Matt, you have any thoughts on avatars? Are you using them in any way?
I mean, this feels only useful in a one-to-many sort of scenario, which is, dehumanizing, I guess. And so the whole, like, agent to agent assumes that both sides have agency.
True.
I feel like we're approaching more of I think what Cory Doctorow called the reverse centaur, where computers do all the like interesting stuff and like
And we just
give all the grunt work to humans.
it could be true. But I just think
Yeah.
like this one instance is like, don't do all this. Like if
Yeah,
like,
nobody
we
wants
have a
this.
system that works now. Like if you have something you want to tell everyone and you don't really want any feedback, you can just make a video, send it out to everyone, and no one will watch it. And that's how it works today, right? That's
Yeah.
exactly and you
Works
know what?
great.
That system is pretty good. We don't need to all show up on a Zoom meeting and have you like basically have a real-time avatar of not you reading prepared remarks that you made. Like I don't think anyone wants any of this. So anyway, if you get to the Zoom CEO, make sure again, like, I don't know, maybe there's some other stuff you could distract them with. Like, be like, how's that email thing going? I don't see Zoom email. Maybe the team should work on that. Don't have them make any more avatars. And then finally, as I think we predicted, pretty much across the board, we said that the AI, OpenAI drama would eventually be made into a movie. It looks like they are making it into a movie. So I wanted us to be first out. Who should play Sam Altman in the movie of I don't know what they're gonna call it. Like I can't remember what it's called. It's like The Chosen One or something. It's the name of the book. So who would you say? Who do you want to see him depicted by?
I don't know. I mean,
all right, so I'm gonna throw some names at you and just tell me if you said yes or no.
I've got a left field one. So I'm rewatching 30 Rock, and
oh my gosh. Okay. Go ahead. Who's the youngest person on that show that would be young enough to play him? Go on.
Oh well, I don't know if he's young enough, but so I mean, I'm literally back in season 1, and oh god, I'm trying to find the name of the guy. He didn't even last the whole series.
All right, while you're looking at it, let me.
Lonnie.
Who is it?
Josh. So when the show was the girly show, it was Jenna Maroney and God, Josh, and I think like third season or so he kind of dropped off, but that's who I've always seen him as. So I'll drop this in the show notes. This is my left field one.
All right, well,
and you know what? This is going to be the comedic actor going for the serious role.
The serious role. Okay, the ones I'm going to throw out that I thought was Rami Malek, right? He was what was he was in?
Yeah.
He was in a couple things.
I mean, he was he did the Freddie Mercury biopic.
Yeah, and then if we're trying to think of the name that
Mr. Robot.
Mr. Robot, that's what I was saying. So he's got like but he can play like kind of like I don't know, an aloof, weird individual. I think.
He can totally do that. I'm just.
All right, what about Michael Cera? I don't know. Maybe that's too much comedy, too much personality.
I mean, he has the problem that people confuse him with Jesse Eisenberg, and they already did The Social Network.
Well, I was gonna say that was the next one I put on the list, Jesse Eisenberg, but that would be the incredible double, right?
I don't think you get the double.
You can't be Zuckerberg and Altman. That's too much for any one person,
right?
Okay, all right. And then the other one I had was Timothy Chalamet. What do you think? I think he's just too cool.
He can do it, but I mean, he just finished up playing Bob Dylan. I maybe he's
like this role was probably beneath him at this point. He probably doesn't like he's moving on to other things.
This is a straight to Hulu movie.
Probably true. That's probably going to be a Hulu documentary, but we're going to watch it. Maybe we'll have a watch party for this kind of thing. Again, I think we should be called in to consult on this as well. There's a lot of consulting work in this episode for us. Hopefully people will call us and offer to take us up on our assistance. So, all right. Well, that's kind of all the news and excitement this week. I did want to say a few things on the listener front here. So I sent some stickers to Andy in the UK. And also I learned that we as U.S. English speakers can actually pronounce the German town as Cologne. Okay, and boom. So here's a fun fact that I was told from Henning. He basically said that in pronunciation. So in California, is spelled 3 different ways. So in German, it starts with a K. In French, they have a spelling with a C. The Dutch also have another variation of spelling with C. But he told me, but Texas is spelled the same in every language. So there you go. Texas forever there. I thought that was very funny. So that's good to know. Also, if you would like a sticker and you didn't see me this week, because I saw several listeners, at the show this week. You should what you should do is you should send me your postal address at stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com. I'll be happy to send you a sticker anywhere in the world. And the upcoming conferences. And look, now I feel confident in actually saying it now, Matt. It's in Cologne. It's on June 12th. Cote will be speaking. It's SRE Day Cologne, and the discount code is CLG10. And you may be surprised to learn that gives you 10% off. So go see Cote, and you too can pronounce the name correctly. Of course, unless you, at least for English speakers. If you're French or if you're German, I'll leave that to you. There's a whole different ways to say it.
They look at you funny for pronouncing it like an American.
That's right. That would be even better. If the American pronunciation would take over the French and German pronunciation, that would be perfect. We would really have done it. All right, Matt, having said all of that, go ahead. What's your recommendation this week?
So my recommendation this week is the Rick Rubin interview on the A16 podcast series. It's just kind of a weird. I mean, so if you've listened to Rick Rubin before or other stuff, you know he's a little nutty sometimes. But he wrote a book about vibe coding, and he self-professed not to be a developer. And he's like, things didn't work and it was just wild, but it's punk rock. And I was like, all right, I'm kind of buying that vibe where he's like, you know what, the thing that was liberating about, I mean, because he's coming from the music background, and he's, his experience is like started in punk rock, got into hip hop and samplers. And so he sees when you give the unskilled access to the tools, you get new creative modes. And I was like, I'm buying this narrative. I like where he's going with this, and I actually thought it was pretty good. And then of course he's also into like a lot of Chinese history stuff, and so he's tying it
like
back
Zen
to
philosophy or something.
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely,
okay.
right. And so he's tying it back into all this stuff, and it's just kind of like, all right, I was with you for a while, and now things are getting kind of nutty. And then it's with the two A16Z partners, Ben Thompson and Mark Andreessen. So they're trying to like edge in some noise about crypto, and I'm just like, oh guys, let it. It's engaging and cringy at the same time. So I would say listen to it, because it changed how I think about vibe coding a bit. Because it's got that punk rock ethos. I like that.
All right. Well, just so we don't get any emails here, because I'm sure we've made other mistakes, but it's Ben Horowitz, not Ben Thompson at A16Z. Yes. So make sure that's a very different. Those Horowitz. Are different. Those are different Bens, but nonetheless,
A to
pretty
Z.
good.
Yes,
that's right. So, well, listen. If you guys want to go to the after show, because I have some different takes on Rick Rubin, so I'm going to talk about it with Matt in the after show. So if you want to, stay then. But if you've had enough, that's fine. I get it. I'm going to make it very simple. Shall I call it a suburban recommendation this week? So, everyone talks about containers, but you know what I'm talking about? Containers for your house. So we finally are trying to standardize all of our glassware back so that we can finally match the lids to the glass. So went to Costco. I got 2 sets of the Snapware Pyrex 18-piece glass food storage set. Love it, Matt. Everything now matches. We have new lids match to our actual glass, where we're taking all the other stuff. We're either going to give that away and sell it. I feel like, this is like a real moment of standardization for my family. So I was very excited, kind of unhealthily excited to actually make this change. So I don't know if it's the best. Like I read online, and it seems like Snapware, and I like the lids that actually snap on.
Yeah.
That's what I want. So I think it's good. It was a good deal. So I'm hopefully we get, I don't know, 2 to 5 years out of this before we have to do another full re-architecture of the glassware.
I'm gonna plus one this with IKEA sells these same products with, you can buy individual lids.
Oh,
so
that's yes.
Yeah, you can buy, I mean, it doesn't come in an 18 piece. You can buy them all individually. So you could be like, I need, I broke one of the square glass ones. I need a new one of those, but I've still got the lid. Or, 2 of the lids broke. I'm just going to go buy lids next time. So that's what we've adopted. So, hopefully Snapware lets you buy them individually. But yeah, I'm all for this.
Well, you made the best thing is it said you could basically contact Snapware and get lids, but that's basically the most important thing is the ability to replace a lid Because once you get your lid to glass container ratio bad, you're in a bad situation.
Yeah.
So we can't leave you on any better advice than that. If you take nothing else from this podcast, recommendations of glassware is what we're here. So, but if you'd like to see more of the things that we didn't cover this week, we have a whole bunch of topics that will show up that we don't get to. So what you can do is go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/522. That's this episode, and you'll see all of those topics. Also, one of the listeners I ran to this week told me that he really enjoys the newsletter because he doesn't always have a chance to listen to everything. What? How could it be possible? But he likes to be able to see all of the links that we discuss. So if you're that kind of person, you should sign up for the newsletter. I'm sure you'd really like it. So
good stuff.
Hopefully you'll do that. And with that, we will talk to you next time.
Bye.
Okay, man, I promised in the after show we would talk about Rick Rubin. Now, my question is, I have watched a lot less about Rick Rubin than probably you have. But one of the things that I finally learned that and this is just said in an interview, is he has no musical training. He does not play any instruments, to my knowledge. He doesn't have any musical training. And they said, I can't remember who said it. I think it was on one of the albums he was hired, that he came in and like laid on a couch, just I guess while they were playing music, and just like, I don't know if he was napping or he was just vibing to it. And he just like listens to everything. Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then somehow they went on to make a great album. And so my question is like, I think it's possible Rick Rubin doesn't do anything. I think he's like completely vaporware. Like he doesn't actually.
No.
Let me say it this way. If you're a music producer, I'm not getting to the vibe coding thing because I don't know anything about that. We'll get to a second. But like what does he do? Like if he's not in like Pro Tools and doesn't know how to
he is though. He is.
Play music. Like what do you think he's actually doing?
When you listen to him talk, it's kind of, hippy dippy sometimes, but like, for example, the Beastie Boys, License to Ill album, seminal work. He came in and he's like, guys, you're going to listen to Led Zeppelin and we're going to use a bunch of Led Zeppelin samples. And they were like, okay, but they were a punk rock band that kind of had some hip hop aspirations, and he just kind of like blew their minds, and he showed up with the samples, and then just casually, the song "No Sleep Till Brooklyn,"
of course,
who plays guitar? Rick Rubin.
Yeah. Okay, so he does play instruments.
Yes, he does play. He's just not like classically trained in anything. So he plays, and obviously he plays a lot of samplers, but. But in the interview, he also talked about working with Johnny Cash, and he did the American recordings, and said he and Johnny Cash just kind of hung out, and Johnny played him a whole bunch of acoustic stuff. They went in the studio, recorded with 3 different sessions, different backing bands, all top stuff, top flight stuff. And then he said, and then after it was all, we could just kind of shelved it and went back to acoustic recordings because we decided that was the nut of it. That was what was most compelling. We didn't need anything else. So his thing is finding like the most compelling part of the most essential essence of whatever that artist is doing. And so if you look at some of the albums he's produced for people, sometimes they're pretty different from a lot of the stuff they've done. It was the first time Johnny Cash had done an acoustic album. He'd got like 50 albums and he'd never gotten to do one. And apparently he'd always wanted to do one. But he was always kind of chasing, the big hits and what the record studios wanted. And that's not what Rick Rubin wanted. That's not what, so.
See, but this is what I want. I guess I really want to see like really behind the scenes. Cause I mean, I can tell like,
but yes, he also does like, hey guys, let's go, I know this great taco place 2 hours away. Let's go hang out there for a while. Right. So he does have this like, it's not all business with him.
I think that's an understatement. I believe that would be, but I guess I'm just curious as to like, cause I think to take the Johnny Cash thing, it's like, I feel like maybe there's just an element of like being a consultant. Like he walks in and talks to Johnny Cash,
absolutely.
And Johnny Cash is like, I really like acoustic music. And does like Rick Rubin just reflect that back to him? It's like, what you should do? Have you ever done an acoustic album? Like he's not like doing any, he's just sort of like reflecting back what the artist sort of like,
but he also
decided they wanted to do, and they maybe felt like they couldn't.
Yeah,
he's just
but
like,
he's also,
you should do that.
Yeah, but it's hard to tell if like, did he decide that immediately? Because in the interview he talks, he relates the story and he talks about how they they went through all this effort of recording several albums worth of material with bands, and then they scrapped it all. So it was like, maybe he's your guide through this journey, and eventually he's gonna hopefully stumble upon the insight that makes it like
He's like your musical Zen master. I'm just going to take you on a journey.
What he is,
we
right?
don't know.
Right?
We're gonna find your inner peace. So I don't know. Listen, what can I say? He's obviously hugely successful, massively rich. So it's worked out for him. But I'm always like, every time I hear about every interview I hear about, and just what you're saying about the pipeline is like, it always starts with like, he doesn't know how to do the thing that we're doing. He's like,
Yes.
I was like, I don't know anything about how to do it. And I'm always like, it doesn't feel like that you would be very good, but I guess it works out. So, all right. Well, listen, I don't know. Maybe there's another Rick Rubin documentary coming out. I'm sure it's something, who knows if he goes on to build the next greatest software, what am I going to say? He vibe coded his way there. So it's good. Listen, I like seeing everybody in the chat this week. Always good to see. Great to see JJ back after a short or long, I don't know, absence. Good to see you there. I'm impressed with his 4.96 rating. I don't think it's going to win, but we'll see. We'll see who else comes in. Henning, always great to see you. I appreciate your hot takes, and I appreciate you helping me say cologne correctly. And Brian's actually a musical guy. I know Brian, maybe he'll have some thoughts in the Slack on music. So, all right, well, hopefully next week we may or may not be streaming. We may have another little special episode coming. You never know with us, so just keep an eye on the stream. And with that, we'll talk to you next time.